Oops, forgot a server. That can have severe implications for security. That is why we will talk today in our second part of our series on why is discovery important for security, about the part operational security.
Welcome to the JDisc YouTube channel.
(2017) was the year of the famous Equifax breach. There, attackers, presumably Chinese state attackers, could enter the systems of Equifax and steal 145 million of personally identifiable information from customers in US, UK and Canada. What happened? The attackers exploited a known vulnerability in Apache Struts software, that's one running on a server of Equifax. A known problem where a CVE, a common vulnerability enumeration, was present but has not been patched. And that way they could live for months in the systems of Equifax and finally steal the information they wanted to get. That was one of the biggest breaches and also due to the reaction of the company. And all that because of one forgotten server that was not up to date. We saw already in the last video in the NIST cybersecurity framework that asset management is one of the fundamental areas or techniques that is needed in order to ensure security. So we saw how it's important for threat and risk analysis and creating a security concept and vulnerability management, which is also the case here for the CVE, which has not been detected. And vulnerability management is a process that extends not only until the release of the product, but also in operations. So today we'll look at operational security. That is the phase of detecting attacks, responding to them and recovering if something happens. That means we need to do continuous security monitoring of our systems so that we can detect an attack even if we can't prevent it. And if something happened, we need to be able to react appropriately. We will see in this video how discovery can help us in these activities and why it's so vital in order to know which systems you have, what exactly is installed them, and how it helps the different roles in the security process. Now, last time we saw how discovery can support the creation of a threat and risk analysis and a security concept. There you identify all the assets that are part of the systems and classify them regarding security. Well, of course, then you implement that security in your system. Either it's implemented by yourself or you just deploy and configure it. It doesn't matter. You have to apply the security measures. Right. And finally, you of course apply discovery. So continuously you find out what's in your system, what software is installed, how do these systems work together. And that information is published to a CMDB so that all people, as we saw last time, can access the information. Well, one system that probably can make use of a CMDB or the discovery system is security monitoring. So here we want to cover all our assets using security monitoring tools. Well, these might be more specific tools than what a normal IT monitoring does. But you need to make sure that all your assets that have been found in reality are really covered by monitoring, because your threat and risk analysis might just cover the planned ones. Now here you can make sure that reality fits the plan. The second area is if really something happened, how can we support a security analyst in getting the details quickly, in understanding who's the contact for this asset, finding other systems that are surrounding this asset that has an incident, and finding out what's installed, what version, and help in the incident response process. Let's look at the various security activities in detail. Now, first, the areas of security monitoring, security testing, and security audits. Security testing is usually an activity that is done by a tester, a pen tester, for example, can be an external entity that you order for testing a certain system. And that will of course use specific systems and work against the real asset that you have. Let's say some computer system, some server. On the other hand, this person also might need some information, depending on whether you want to make a black box test, in which case he doesn't know anything about it, just try, or a gray box test, where you give him information about which endpoints to use, which applications to concentrate in, and some context information so that he knows what's adjacent, what's running on it, and he can more specifically test your system. So discovery can be a good source of a scoping meeting with a security tester. Of course, it needs to be up to date, so the reality needs to be discovered. The second role that might be interested in using a discovery system is a security auditor. So if you're making a compliance audit regarding your security posture and processes in the organization, you make an audit. And this auditor will of course not be accessing the systems in reality. Usually he really looks at the process, but if it's good, he also looks at the reality, whether that fits together with what the processes say you're doing. So discovery can serve as a good source by means of using reports and quick queries for the auditor to check whether the plan really is reflected in the system that has been discovered up to date, yesterday maybe. Let's look at some examples that an auditor might be interested in. Suppose he wants to check whether there is any incompliance regarding unsafe protocols or servers that are being used. So using a discovery tool, you can create a report of all the communication that's happening in the system, all the ports open, all the protocols spoken. And if the auditor finds there something like FTP, he might say, that's not good, that's not compliant. Or he sees there are SNMP servers and he can specifically check whether these SNMP servers have some security applied, yes or no. So this kind of report helps him. What else? Now look at the initial case that we had with this outdated software. You can easily get up a report of all the software installed on your servers. Now just pick some examples and look for outdated software. You immediately see how many servers and which servers are impacted by this old software. Or take the example of checking the VLAN, the network infrastructure. Right? You can list all the VLANs that are present, what security algorithms they use. That is also something that might point to some weakness in the environment or not. Now sometimes all the protection doesn't help, and we have the suspicion that there is an attack happening, that there might be an attack on one of our systems. Right, so you have a security incident and hopefully a system where you can track these security incidents. Normally a security analyst will look into this incident and try to collect what is called an indicator of compromise. So some resource that tells him whether there is really an incident and on which systems. That might be a malware signature, a certain communication to a certain port or IP address, etc. Now, of course, it's best if the analyst can look at each system, but that might be hard to do because some time, depending on the organization, that he gets access to the system, and that's a lot of work doing that manually. A security analyst can make use of Discovery and CMDB because that is a central system with up-to-date information. The compromised asset had been discovered before, so you find all the information in the Discovery database. You can look there at the details. In the CMDB you can find out who's the correct contact in the organization that belongs to that asset. In the Discovery you can also see, let's say, which assets are around or near these assets that could also be attacked by the attacker in the meantime, so that you can mark these as suspicious as well. As its main tool, of course, he's using some incident response tool platform, but as a tool for getting the details and as an adjacent help or supporting tool, he might use Discovery and CMDB in his work. One thing that is especially interesting when you're doing incident response is what has changed. Now suppose we have a server, an asset that has been discovered since a long time. So there's a history present and you can make snapshots, right? And that means if you inspect a certain system in the context of an incident, you can check what has changed since then. That might give you an indication of whether the attacker has already installed some software, changed some configuration, etc. A diff, both on a single entity or also on the complete list of installed applications or installed devices that there are, can help the incident response security analyst in finding suspicious traces of an attacker. So let's summarize. Especially during incident response, if something has already happened, it's critical to have a central system where you can look up the information with up-to-date information. So completeness, up-to-dateness is really critical for incident response. Discovery does provide that. You have not only a certain type of asset, you have all your assets in the IT. Application, network, users, file system, all kinds of levels, even services and communication that you can interrogate in a central place, and that quickly. So you have mass operations that help you check the security configuration and the compliance, and also make a check of the complete environment that has been discovered there. So one tool to serve it all. So as you saw in the initial example, it's super important to have high data quality in your discovery in order to support security. The assets need to be up to date. You have to have a complete coverage of all your assets, and it needs to be up to date. So discovery needs to be fast and scale well. You need to have open interfaces where you can either get direct reports or even script using some API, or access a CMDB as the single source of truth. JDisc Discovery is one of the few systems that can deliver all these properties. If you are interested, then please go to www.jdisc.com for more information. So if you want to know more about how Discovery can help you in your security processes, contact JDisc, Thomas Trenz, and look on the webpage and the other channels. If you like this information in this video and the previous one, please give us a like and subscribe to the channel. We are delivering more videos like this, and see you there next time. Thank you very much. You're Peter. Bye.